live.
Kansho.
Good morning and welcome to New York Buddhist Church. Today is Sunday, October 23rd, and we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. We'll begin service with quiet sitting. Please sit up straight, gently calm your mind, and follow your breath. Today's chant is SAM-BUTSU-GE, Bodhisattva Dharmākara's verses in praise of Buddha Lokeshvara-RājA on page 46, with Nembutsu and Ekoku merit transference. Following that will be Vandana and Tisarana, which you'll find on page 7. Our meditative reading, the Shinshu Pledge, is found on page 5 and 6, and we will have a reading from Reverend Seki's writings. Our Kanwa message today is our special guest, Miss Nancy Okada, and our Gathas ONDOKUSAN and Nembutsu will be found on page 134. Thank you, and Namu Amida Butsu.
Joe. Would you all stand for the Vandana and Tisarana? It's on page 7, if you are able to stand. the Dharma for guidance.
I go to the Dharma for guidance.
I go to the Sangha for guidance.
I go to the Sangha for guidance.
Namu-Kie-Butsu.
Namu-Kie-Butsu.
Namu-Kie-Ho.
Namu-Kie-Ho.
Namu-Kie-So.
Namu-Kie-So.
Namo Amidas. Namo Amidas. Namo Amidas. Namo Amidas.
Today's meditative reading is this red book, page 7, Shinshu Pledge, on page 6 in English and 7 in Japanese.
It's 5 in Japanese. 5 in Japanese.
5? Okay, sorry. 5 in Japanese. Shinshu Pledge number 2 on page 6. Entrusting in the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed the journey of life with the strength and joy. Revealing the light of the Buddha and reflecting upon my imperfect self, I shall strive to live a life of gratitude. Following the teachings of the Buddha and discerning the right path, I shall spread the true Dharma. Rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha, respecting and aiding others, I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Page 5 in Japanese. 浄土真宗の生活信条。一つ、御仏の誓いを信じ、尊い皆を唱えつつ、強く明るく生き抜きます。一つ、御仏の光を仰ぎ、常に我が身を顧みて、感謝のうちに励みます。一つ、御仏の教えに従い、正しい道を聞き分けて、誠の実りを広めます。一つ、御仏の恵みを喜び、互いに敬い、助け合い、社会のために尽くします。
Today I'll be reading from Reverend Hosen Seki, the founder of the New York Buddhist Church, his book, The Great Natural Way. Nembutsu is not something sacred in the sense of something removed and apart from us. We must have the same feeling for Nembutsu that we have for Amida himself, not the dualism of apart from myself or separate from myself. Thus, we can recite Nembutsu at all times, even when our minds are not wholesome, even when our actions are not right. There is no dualism in Nembutsu. It is like our breath, which is inseparable from our bad as well as our good deeds. So this is from Reverend Hosen Seki's teaching. And I read this because our speaker today, Nancy Okada, has been intricately involved in the New York Buddhist Church. At least her family was from the very beginning. And Nancy was practically born and raised here in this church. Her father, Stanley T. Okada, was the executive director of the New York Buddhist Church from 1938 through World War II to the 1980s. He worked closely with Reverend and Mrs. Hosen Seki for the welfare and promotion of the New York Buddhist Church and its community. Thus, Nancy and the Okada family was deeply involved in not only the New York Buddhist Church, but the community. Her maternal grandparents, Reverends Yoshio and Hisako Hino, were long-working Jodo Shinshu missionaries to Hawaii. Nancy believes the teaching of Shinran Shonin and the Jodo Shinshu practice is a supportive influence of life. So many of you have known Nancy. Maybe some of you have never met her because she spends a lot of her Sundays in the office doing a lot of our financial work, actually. She takes care of so many aspects of the church. She's also a teacher of Nihon Buyo, or Japanese dance, the Tachibana dance group, and they just started their dance classes again last week, I think. So, and she always leads us for our Obon every year, the Obon Dance Festival. So she's a huge asset to our church, not only community-wise, but spiritually too. So it's my pleasure to welcome Nancy as our speaker today. Thank you.
Okay, for all of you that are out there, I'm going maskless. I don't know if you know this K95 mask, but it makes you sweat underneath. And for my comfort, I think I'm far away enough from all of you that I'm not going to infect anybody, I hope. Good morning. I am very pleased to be up here in the sense that when I was first asked, I said, I have nothing to say. What do you want me to say? Gary Jaskula, Reverend Jaskula is on the phone and he's saying, well, you have a lot to say. Don't think about it. Now, have you ever been told that? You have a lot to say, just don't think about it. Oxymoron, and you go, okay, if one person is willing to listen to me, then fine. As I thought about it, the main objective of my life, because I cannot speak for anybody else's, has been gratitude and mindfulness. As Reverend Ikemiya had said, I am a product of the New York Buddhist Church. My father was conscripted to teach Japanese to the military before World War II and during World War II. And he was helping Reverend Seki, and as soon as the war ended, we moved from gentle, quiet Yale University in Connecticut down to New York Buddhist Church. So I was surrounded by what I call myokonin, grandmothers galore taking care of the church. Reverend and Mrs. Seki running around trying to take care of the community. My parents, my mother was either helping in Sunday school, and my father was administering and helping people with social work. And it was considered natural for my brother and I to frolic, let's put it that way, within New York Buddhist Church. Reverend Seki's 2 sons, unfortunately, were my babysitters. And as 2 young men out in the world, they really didn't know how to take care of us. And the phrase was, what is, just go with it. So we climbed trees, we investigated different things. And then one day at the age of, I think, 5, Mrs. Nakamura, who was one of the staunch Fujinkai members, pulled me in the side and said, you know, you're a girl. You know, up until 5 years old, you could do whatever you want. And I looked at her and I said, okay, I know. So you have to stop now. What do you mean, stop now? So she took me in front of the Buddha, sat me down, and she said, see there, the Shinran Shonin. Listen to Shinran. And now, promise, you will be a girl. Now tell a 5-year-old child in this day and age, be a girl or a boy, and it's very difficult. And I said, what does it mean to be a girl? Just be. You will know. Shinran is telling you, it's natural, just be. And I remember that. At 5 years old, it made an impression because suddenly, okay, you're taking me away from what I knew, which was perfectly natural. We would catch birds and play with mice and all sorts of lovely things. And now you're telling me to be a girl. I have no idea what that is. Don't worry, you'll work with the Fujinkai, the women's group. You'll know. And so you get pulled into different things. And the main lesson, unbeknownst to me, was to acknowledge mindfully, open this mind of yours with preconceived ideas to what is happening around you. Because of the war, we had a lot of displaced people come to the church, and many of them were homeless. Do not ask where that person has been, but serve tea, serve a meal, help them. If they want to cry, sit there and just listen. And you didn't question, you did it. And I'm thankful for those years because we all went through the COVID era in this 21st century, for 2 years we were told, encapsulate your life. To save others, to save yourself, to save your family. Do away with that outside world. Become your own little self. And psychologists now tell us that was the wrong thing to do because many people have now become entitlement persons. Their thing is, I am entitled to have. The electronic age has given us the capacity to research everything under the sun. You can order food. You can order clothing. Medical advice now comes. My doctor had me do a virtual appointment and to sign off on the medical procedure. And I went, this does not feel right. She's all the way at Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm all the way in Queens, and she knows how I feel. And she says, I'm writing out a prescription to your pharmacist. Don't worry, just take the medication. And as I sat there thinking about it, I said, how impersonal are we? Now we're told, go back to normal, get on the subway, get on the bus, go back to work. Our human psyche has been tested for 2 years, and suddenly you say, I have to go back to work. I have to deal with other humans on a commuter train. I have to walk the streets. I should go into the supermarket. Our lives have been turned topsy-turvy. And then what comes to my mind is separate your mind, sift out the negative, and think of the positive. Well, folks, being human, that's very difficult. My grandparents used to say, you wake up in the morning with a clean slate, nothing on your mind, nothing at all. Then slowly, as you go through your paces, I must make a medical appointment. I have to cook breakfast. I have to dress the children. The children need to go to school. I have to clean the house. All of these things naturally pile up. So when somebody tells you, hey, take a step back and forget everything, we as humans say, we can't. We cannot do that. And the voice of Shinran Shoni comes into my head and saying, it's all right. Take a deep breath. Put your hands together in Gassho. This is a hand of impure thoughts. 108, we are told, violations. Amida Buddha. Namu Amida Butsu is the right hand. They come together, and you will know that you're human. But the capabilities of you being human are here. Acknowledge your faults, awaken to the Nembutsu, put them together. And to further help, there's an ojuzu, or a rosary, as some of my Catholic friends call it, encompasses your hands to say, you're human. No matter what you do at this moment, you recognize you are human. Isn't that a wonderful thought to take through life? We acknowledge that we are human. And in Jodo Shinshu, unlike Shingonshu, Tendai, Nichirenshu, we have no practice, so to speak, or in Zen. We're not forced to sit down and meditate. You're not forced to walk the mountains of Mount Hiei or to sit before the Buddha counting your ojuzu as you recite Naman Dautsu, Naman Dautsu, Naman Dautsu, which is all supposed to be for your benefit, to clear yourself as a Buddhist. That's very hard to do. Our practice, my grandfather used to say, Jodo Shinshu is the easiest religion. You put your hands together, think of Shinran and say Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, for that little instant, that helps. But the reality is, once you take your hands out of the juzu and go on to the next step, hey, you're on your own. You have to deal with what is around you. And it's being mindful to recognize what is around you that makes Jodo Shinshu, to me, a very valuable religion. Our practice is from the moment you wake up. You don't need to have an altar. You don't need to have a chair. You don't have to follow rituals. But it's the command of the religion that you mindfully practice your life. And as you think about it, that's like breathing. How does one do that? How can I do it to benefit others? And mindfulness does, for me, help to understand this moment, what I'm doing. Somebody said, oh, you must be so happy of what you had learned in the past, and think of all the teachers you had. That's the past. In a myriad ways, my life has come this far, and I'm very appreciative of what's in the past. I've learned things like making mochi. If any of you would like to learn about mochi, it's a soft, sweet rice we pound at New Year's time, Japanese tradition. and we offer it on the altar, but the feeling was you can't start New Year's off unless you had this small little cake of glutinous rice, which almost stuck into your throat, and said to everybody, Happy New Year. Japanese tradition, but also a Buddhist one in that you are sharing, you are giving to each other. I have a Catholic friend who said, well, you know, all the sins of the world could be cured if everybody went to confession. And it always bothered me when I was in school, elementary school, and I would tell my grandfather, I said, such and such said, because my grandfather says you have to own up to all your negativity. And by doing that, you mindfully give to others and you embrace what others have. And here's a friend at school who's telling me, no, come with me. I didn't know what confession was. I said, okay. I told my father I'm going to St. John's Church, and he said, fine. Dress properly and go. It's okay, whatever. And I see this priest bring my friend into a box, and I hear some talking. And she comes out, and she says, oh, it was easy this time. I just have to do 12 Hail Marys, and we'll be off. I'm thinking in my head, 12 Hail Marys, and then we'll be off. Okay, I said, but you were in there for a while. She says, well, I had to confess on all the sins that I did for the last 2 weeks, and it took a while. But I'm free of them. So I said, okay. So you then go down to the altar area, and she tells her 12 Hail Marys, and we go and meet her mother, and her mother says, well, did you do everything the priest said? And then she says, oh, yes. Father Francis said, yes, fine, I'm free. So she says, now I have 2 weeks to do more things. And to me at that age, I went, you went to confess. You were absolved from those sins. Now you're telling me you're going to rack up in the next 2 weeks to go back to confess. And I asked Reverend Seki this. I said, in Jodo Shinshu, do we have a system where you're going to absolve me from any wrongdoings I do? And he said, no, you did them. You mindfully or unmindfully did it. You therefore are responsible. And being responsible, you also have the opportunity to rectify them. For a 12-year-old, that's a pretty big hit. And I went, okay, so I have to make up for every bad thing that I did. And I'm sitting there and thinking, but, as a human, we always want to put, but I had a reason for doing it. Oh, but, and you want to rationalize it. And the one thing I did do was I went to Mr. Onihashi, who used to help make mochi in this big shelter area we had in the backyard, who was blind, 99% legally blind. And I and Hoshina played a trick on him as he was turning the mochi paste for preparation. We took his cane. He always put his cane in the same place on the side of the mochi machine. And Hoshina and I said, let's see if he can find it. Okay. Hoshina was a few years older than I was. And we took the cane and we put it into, since it was a brownstone, the second floor hondo. And we said, we'll tell him if he can't find it. So you see these two angelic faces, I believe I was angelic, sitting with the women's group, and we're preparing stuff, the bean paste, which goes into the mochi with the fujinkai. And suddenly we hear this yelling. "Dare ga tottara? Dare ga tottara?" And which means in Japanese, in English it means, who took it? Who took my stick? And so Hoshina and I looked at each other, smiled, continued rolling the bean paste balls, perfect angels. And then Reverend Seki came down and he said, we have to find a stick for Onihashi-san because he can't, move. He can't walk. He can't get home, whatever. And then Reverend Seki was very perceptive. He looked at us and he said, "Did you two know about Mr. Onihashi's stick?" And knowing Reverend Seki, who was very pleasant, but when he had a temper, he had a temper. I said, "Yes, I'm sorry we took it." He said, "Go and get it, bring it back. I'm going to tell your father when he comes home from work." So we got Mr. Onihashi's stick, his cane, and gave it to him. My father comes home at 5 o'clock from work, and Reverend Seki says that today Nancy was bad. But it wasn't all her fault, as my son was involved in it too. They stole and hid Mr. Onihashi's stick. Now here, I'm just saying, okay, I have never heard my father raise his voice. He never did in his life. But I'm saying, I'm gonna get it. I am going to get the spanking of my life. So he looked at me, he said, "Tell me, did you take Mr. Onihashi's cane?" I said, "Yes." "Did you return Mr. Onihashi's cane?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, go up to your room, go tell your mother, and I will be up." I never ran so fast in my life. Up 3 flights of stairs, and I told my mother, "Daddy's gonna come up here and he's gonna start screaming at me, and this is what I did. So I'm just gonna sit here." And I sat there and I waited and waited and waited. My father got involved in other things, social work things in the church. He finally comes up and he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "How should I feel?" You know, when the guilt's on you and you're a little child, and I could feel tears coming down my face. And I see my mother in the corner of the kitchen laughing. And here's my father over me saying, "And how do you feel?" And I just gasped and said, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again, I'll never do it again." He says, "No, you will do something again. That's not what I asked you. How do you feel?" "I feel bad." He said, "Good. Feel bad for a little longer." Turned around and went out. But that is indelibly in my mind that, okay, I was not mindful enough to know of the consequences, and this is what happened. But it was a very good learning experience, I will say, for myself, especially when you have parents out there, anybody, to tell you what life is. A short story, in Kyoto, I was mentored by a minister who was the gatekeeper of Nishihonganji, meaning every morning he would open Nishihonganji for the first osaji, or first service of the day. And Reverend Imakoji said, "You know, it is very important to listen to the Nembutsu." And I said, "Okay, fine." He says, "What do you consider life?" I said, "What I'm living now." He says, "No. By nature's thinking, you were given life. The ideal is that you will die. There's no way you can escape this. But in the center of these 2 points, you have the responsibility to do bad things, to suffer. You will not know it, you will not care about it, and you may not recognize it. But this is what it is. Here is your birth. Here is your death. What you are ultimately responsible for is this center, a circle." And I just realized this, my sister brought it to my attention. In Zen, you will see a lot of illustrations of a circle. And this is what it is. There is no beginning nor end, but what happens in between is what you're responsible for. And that's always in my mind. You are responsible for that part. So again, I'm talking up here about my personal experiences, and there are myriad experiences out there. If anything, I ask you to look at your left hand, look at your right hand. Here are the truths of the suffering. From the moment you are born to the moment you die, you may acknowledge them or not. And here is Amida Buddha. Put them together. bow your head and say Namo Amida Butsu. Let's do it together. Left hand and right hand together. Namandavu, Namandav, Namandav, Namandav. And you may recite Namandavu, Namo Amida Butsu as many times as you want, because you are acknowledging what you are at this moment. I didn't want to become philosophical, but I hope that I didn't put you to sleep. And that you do have a good day, mindful with the gratitude of every moment. When you go to the supermarket, thankful for all those people who grew the stuff, the truckers who had to get it here so you could have it, and your ability to go in and buy it. For you to walk to the subway, the same thing. We are now, quote unquote, normalizing so that you have the opportunity to return to a sense of peace in life again. And one day, these masks will not be needed, and I can see people's faces. I'm terrible. I cannot recognize people when I went to a university project because everybody has a mask on. And a professor came up to me and says, "You didn't say hello to me." Well, he had this enormous mask like this, and outside of his height, I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't recognize you." We'll get back to normal, and I am so glad that you are here to listen to my words of childhood, adult wisdom. Thank you. Namaste.
Will you please stand for the Gatha Ondokusan, followed by Nembutsu. The Gatha Ondokusan is on page 134.
Page 134.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please be seated. This concludes our service for today. And really happy that Nancy was able to share her story with us. It's sort of wonderful to experience the history of New York Buddhist Church through Nancy's eyes as a child growing up, and just how she learned the teaching just through daily life by the people around her. And I hope that all of you experience that as well, too. I'd like to thank today our greeters, our greeter, Ruth Funai, and pianist Nobuko Kodama, and our technician, David Brady. And this is a time when we would like to welcome any newcomers who come for the first time to the New York Buddhist Church. Do we have anyone who's a newcomer today? Please. Could you stand up and introduce yourself to everyone? And how did you come here?
Thank you for having me here, and it's good to see everyone. My name is Alex, and I've been on the path of Buddhism for a while. So it all started off with yoga. It all kind of connects, and it seems very simple life, way of life, and simple. It makes sense for the next part of my journey. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, Alex.
Yeah. And thank you for the speaker for a wonderful share. I forgot your name.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm Alex's husband, and he suggested that I come with him today. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, my name is Yang. I have been born a Zen Buddhist in Taiwan. I'm here visiting a good friend of mine and happen to be in town for service. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and it was wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dorian Goto Stone. I'm here after I had my mother's funeral here. Her name was Kazuko, and this is my first time attending the service. It was very lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. It's really, we're really thrilled. Is there anyone else who's here for the first time? So we have not only you here, but we also have people who are viewing on Facebook and YouTube. And so for those who are out there too, you're also a part of our community, our Sangha. And we're very grateful for you all to attend the service. Well, for our service, you realize that, we do rely on your dana, your generosity. And so we welcome any contributions that you will make. We have, if you would like to join us as a member, we have the membership forms online and at the New York Buddhist Church, it's the website, newyorkbuddhistchurch.org. And you can make contributions through our website as well. We're so happy that you came today, and it's just wonderful to see more and more people coming and joining us. As Nancy said, just kind of opening up the doors again we sort of tentatively did it at the beginning, but I'm seeing so many new faces too, which is exciting for us, and it means that we're reaching more people, and hopefully people in the community as well. So thank you so much for coming. And let's close by saying the Nembutsu together. In gratitude for this opportunity for us to come together as a Sangha, as a community, to learn, to support one another, and to experience the joy of living together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you for coming.